What you just saw was an uncut demo video of my new game project, which I've been obsessing over lately. It's a, well, obviously, Metroid Prime inspired exploration adventure game. It'll have a fully interconnected world with secrets to find and upgrades to collect. The style I'm going for is a sort of 1960s cartoon retro-futurist vibe. Sci-fi elements may exist, and they may have a hint of realism, but they're often adorned with cutesy nonsense elements. Think The Jetsons meets something like Half-Life. I want the tone to be relatively upbeat while also being atmospheric. Things are relatively vague right now, so cut me some slack if changes occur. And speaking of which, while I currently have plans for a story and concept, I can't really get too much into it right now, since it's very rough and could change from day to day. I'm just not ready to show that yet. At this stage in development, any tips for how things might be better coded, organized, or designed are highly appreciated, and will be considered. I know I'm not perfect, and there might be some obvious things I simply hadn't considered. I've binged probably dozens of Unity tutorials and GDC panels which have greatly increased my knowledge and understanding. A major thing I've learned is that modularity is key. When you're programming a game, rather than designing self-contained systems which operate independently of each other, it's much easier to fall into the trap of simply asserting to the game exactly what it should do at any given moment. It's a very top-down, inflexible way of looking at things. To avoid this, it's best to eliminate dependencies between game objects wherever possible. The last thing you want is to put a door in some random scene and get errors because you didn't also drag in a button, a player, and a light source or something. What helps greatly with eliminating dependencies are these things called scriptable objects. They not only let you hold data outside of scenes, but they also do a lot of amazing shit. They offer a common place to go when a script needs to find something. Instead of the UI needing an explicit reference to your player's sprocket gun charge data, you can simply tell your sprocket gun script to store the data in a scriptable object, and the UI can go there to find it. This means in your scene, you can have a UI without a sprocket, and you can have a sprocket without a UI, and since the scriptable object is a file on your hard drive, both scripts will always have access to it. For me, this is a new and better way of thinking which makes things so much easier, meaning I'll be able to push my efforts further. With all of this, my eventual goal is to have the flexibility to spawn anything I want into any scene at any time and have it work as expected, with little to no setup. Imagine having the ability to create a Gmod type experience with the game. Rather than asserting your will onto each object, you simply define its behavior and let the game do the rest. The demo you've seen so far is pretty bare bones. I kinda just wanted to make something that felt at least somewhat complete so I can get a feel for how the game should look, sound, and play. Of course, I have big ideas in my head for this, including a sizable map, plenty of unique upgrades, a dialogue system, and optional post-game content. Combat will probably work a bit differently than you'd expect. It'll be less about you hurting enemies and more about you working around them to your own advantage. I also plan to add lots of music with a strong melodic direction. As a final thought, I'd like to make the game highly moddable as well. So, this has been a first devlog for my game. Updates may come sooner or later, but no promises. Also, I have plans to talk about more games in the future similar to how I approached Metroid. So that'll be a thing in due time as well. Cheers!